Hej allesammans, hej och välkommen till Techrec-podden. Jag sitter och spelar in det här på fredag eftermiddag för ett avsnitt ska släppas i nästa vecka. Och att man säger det, att det är fredag, det är alltså fredagen den 11:e idag. Det är ju för att det har varit en så dramatisk vecka vad det gäller världshandel och börser och annat. Så att man inser att nästan varje dag ändrar en outlook på världen. Om man ser någon kommentar på den här veckan så är det ju att man kan säga att man inte vet helt enkelt. Att det är otroligt svårt tycker jag att förutse vad som kommer hända och också hur det här kommer påverka oss. Början den här veckan så var man, inte snarare början men i slutet förra veckan när det här nästa nivå av kaos påbörjades, så tycker jag att man kände att det var oroligt för att allting skulle ta tvärstopp. Det gjorde lite grann i början på veckan. Plötsligt var det liksom stopp på massa fronter, men det har sen tagit fart lite grann i slutet på veckan och vi har normalt inflöde med förfrågningar och så. Som några vet så är vår affär är nog en väldigt bra mätare på omvärldsläget. Så att folk ändå gör saker är ju någonting positivt. Sen är det alltid tillfälligheter och allt det där. Men jag tycker ändå att jag är hyggligt positiv trots det här kaotiska omvärldsläget som vi finner oss i. Och det där kommer vi garanterat prata mer om i podden. Men idag är avsnittet något helt annat. Det är en mycket duktig entreprenör som heter Mazig som driver ett startupbolag som heter Cerve. Som har ambition att samla en mängd data från matvärlden och underlätta all typ av beställning och logistikflöden kan man säga inom matbranschen. Men det är också spännande tycker jag att för att Cerve också valt att lägga sin utveckling i Göteborg. Delvis typiskt för att Dan bor i Göteborg, men faktiskt också för att man tror att man kan hitta bra folk i Göteborg. Och det speglar också min syn. Så att det här är lite ett Göteborgsavsnitt faktiskt. Varsågod. Det vill säga, det här kommer ni märka stort, men det här är ett avsnitt på engelska. Developers. So, how does this feel?
Yeah, fine.
You feel ready?
I think so. Good. Didn't do it a lot, so before. So.
No, is this your first pod?
For first pod, yes.
Good, I'm glad. They're almost always the best pods, the first pods.
The most honest ones, I guess.
Yeah, that's true though. It's true. So maybe
not trained enough.
Yeah. Should we sort of maybe we start off just with a warm up?
Yeah.
What's top of mind this week? What are you thinking about at the moment?
How to carry Cerve forward. I mean, really. I mean, what things we should focus on. What things we should actually drop, what things we should actually not focus on anymore. Yeah. How do we progress and build towards the future and the vision? That's really it.
Yeah. Well, then let's dive into that then properly. So maybe you should say where we are at the moment.
From commercial perspective, we're about...
I was thinking physically where we are.
We are in Gothenburg right now.
Yeah, in your office.
We are in our office in Unit 3, United Spaces in Gothenburg.
It's a very cool office. I'm very impressed.
It's really nice.
The whole area is fantastic.
Yeah, actually. I think the lunch here is just the best part of the...
Yeah.
I don't know if you had the chance to eat the lunch.
I know I haven't, but I walked here and I took the boat over, and it was it's just an amazing setting. So
it is. It's a Compass group, and they're doing just chef level menus and like.
Yeah, it's good. We're finishing off. We'll finish off in the lounge.
The lunch is over though.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow.
well. Okay, so but why don't you tell me who you are and how did you end up here?
I'm Dan. I'm originally from Israel. I moved to Sweden about 11 years ago. Don't speak the language yet. Don't think that will ever come. But yeah, I've been a product person my life. I started as a designer. I moved into product very early on. Sold the first startup when I was 21 after launching it when I was 19.
Yeah, so this was in Tel Aviv or in...
Yeah, that was in Israel when I was in Israel.
Yeah. And were you always a techie guy or was that sort of a...
Yeah, I was techie since I was about 3 years old. My first computer, kind of playing games on a very old 386 computer.
Oh yeah, I had one as well.
Yeah, my father was really great at getting the newest computers at the time. So I was just the first one to pick up a computer when I was young and got my own computer when I was about 6 or 7. And just since then, just living with a computer constantly. And first job I had was when I was 15, designing websites, building websites for clients. And then from there, it just took off. When I was 19, just launching my first startup.
And how did that happen? I mean, that must be very...
Yeah, it was really interesting because I obviously just built websites for people and applied to jobs, kind of more like consulting jobs.
And you sort of decided did you want to study or did you sort of want to... What was your sort of...
I never thought about studying, really. I mean, I only thought about studying after it was too late.
Okay.
But yeah, just directly in high school already, just starting to build things, and just very entrepreneurial from a very young age. So I never thought about going to university and halting or
that was never an option.
Yeah, it was never really an option.
And were your parents okay? Were they sort of did they wanted you to study, or they were sort of fine with you?
I don't know if that's only speaking about myself, but in our house, nobody really is educated in the university level. I mean, and it's not commonly thing in Israel. Just everybody's being pushed to university. I think you have pass in Israel. It's not trending into university.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought the opposite. I was sort of a classical would be sort of intellectual.
I think in Israel it's a very unique culture. I don't know if you've seen the numbers. Israel has one of the highest number of entrepreneurs and unicorns.
I was just going to ask you about
from a ratio
this.
perspective.
Yeah. Tell me about this.
I mean, you have USA obviously being the first one, and then you have India, and the third one is Israel.
Yeah.
Which is a really.
And Tel Aviv is like the hotspot, or is.
Israel is tiny. So when everybody talks about, abroad on Israel, it's Tel Aviv is really the center of all of it. But you have some startups around, Herzliya and Rishon LeZion and these areas, cities that are very close by.
And what did that mean? How did that affect you as a young man? You sort of.
I mean, you're very exposed to entrepreneurialism very early age. You're seeing people succeed, and you've seen people actually working very hard. Culture in Israel is you work. That's what you do. That's what defines you in many cases. So just seeing my parents working very hard, seeing entrepreneurs in very young age, it just was very natural for me to just follow that path. And studying is just not as commonly talked. I mean, it's a great path to follow. It just very different than entrepreneurialism.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I knew that there was lots of entrepreneur, but I didn't realize that there was this shift away from studying a little bit. That's interesting. And so the first company, how did that happen? I mean, how did you sort of?
Yeah, so I applied into one job online. I was 16, and I had to take the train to Tel Aviv. I met this guy. He was a really rich, looked very young as well. And he was basically hiring me for my first job. He said, "Can you do some project like with a test? And I'll tell you if." And he really loved all my designs when I was back then. It was I forgot what it was, like gambling login page or something like that, just something very minimal. And turned out that he was my age, exactly my age. He was born on 29th of July, 88. And he was actually hiring me when I was 16, but he was 16 as well.
When did he tell you this?
We're still very good friends. So okay. Only later on in life, realized that we're, the same exact age. So actually, we continued working together. We did some websites for multiple clients, and we just built a relationship. And after a while, it was like, I'm planning to build a social network, a white label social network together with two friends. We need a designer. Do you want to jump on board? And, sounds amazing when you're 19. Jump on board, started building something. We kind of pivoted a few times until we realized that there is a market. It was back in the days when Facebook was just emerging out of the US, right? So there was so much excitement around social networks. And then we pivoted into a social network for gambling because we saw the niches being stronger with Zynga coming into Facebook and actually kind of ramping up social gambling to a degree.
Oh, is that's what? So you gamble together?
You chat, you send drinks, virtual drinks, all these kind of things that really engage people in gambling. And I think what back in the days my three co-founders saw is basically there is a really need for that in hard gambling as well, not just in the soft gambling on the fake money. And we basically decided to branch specifically and make the white label platform into very specific for gambling. Yeah, we just did some marketing for that. We didn't really finish the platform completely. It was a very early stage. We showed that to a few gambling companies, and eventually one of them picked it up and just said, I wanted to buy the platform and the concept. And then they continued building it in-house. That was the first exit.
It was like an exit already?
Yeah, it was an exit when I was 21. It wasn't a big exit. It was just an interesting thing for a 21 years old.
There's a lot of difference when you're 21.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
How did
that make you feel? Was it like a big success, or you're like, we should have done more?
No, I think the sum was not enough to feel like I was a big success. But it felt really nice that you build something and people actually want to pay quite a lot of money for it. And then you get to follow on and just build the next thing. And it just makes you rewarded as an entrepreneur, right? It's just great. You did the right things. You now move on to the next thing you want to build. Yeah, and we just continued building more things throughout the years. I found multiple companies that either I joined very early stage kind of to help them craft the product from scratch, kind of scoping the features, understanding the market, understanding the competitors, the users, mostly the users, designing the platform from scratch, and then kind of laying it off to development and guiding development how to do it. And I did it across 20 different industries.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And any particular thing you'd like to sort of, this is a learning or something you really sort of bring with you from those? I mean, like successes and not successes, what sort of...
I think what I would define success in that sense of, building or entrepreneurial spirit, I think it's knowing all elements of business. So I kind of started as a designer and branched into product, but I realized that if I will be a developer as well, that will be really great. And then if I can be actually in sales and marketing and finance, and I realized I'm not a very good developer, but I could do the other things. So I started branching out into more areas and learn economy and learn finance and learn marketing and sales. And just all these things combined together, it didn't make me a great salesperson. It made me a great designer or a great product person that understands the bigger picture.
Okay, I see what you mean, yeah.
And that's really something that I carried, as into every project that I've done. I try to understand as much as possible, just so the value that I can create is much higher.
Can you be specific how you do that? Because I agree with that, but it's interesting what's your sort of method.
It's always great to start, when I start product, mostly that's what people hired me for. It's kind of to understand from a product perspective, what's your vision as a founder? And then how does that portray, what do you want the business to achieve? What do you want the users to achieve? There are two different things. Often, what the business wants is happy users, but sometimes things will be tilted. So you need to understand that very early on.
Could you give an example?
Yeah, it was very common in 2000, where you would push your users to buy things. So you will kind of put pop-up banners in their face, and it will make it very hard to close. Right? There are things that you're not always doing just for your users, but other for your revenue growing. I realize more and more that these companies are not for me, obviously, because they're just spam and they're not creating any value. They're just creating maybe good business for some people. Leaning more towards what users want and how you should design it for them to increase your engagement. But there is still kind of an area of you increase your user engagement, you increase in your revenue, but how do you cause the user to actually increase their engagement? Right, so there is psychology that goes into product and design that allows your users to actually increase how they work.
And can you give some examples of what you found that works through the years and maybe not what doesn't work?
It's not generalized to that degree, but I think normally friction, user experience friction, right? I mean, if you think about it, people don't want to click a lot. They want less clicks. They want more data accessible for them. And they want it as fast as possible. This is normally what people will be willing to pay for. So you can entice people to get quicker, better, faster. And that's how you design towards it. Although the first product that you will deliver, the initial product, the MVP or the non-paid version, will be not that. It will be giving you a little friction. It will slow you down slightly. It will still allow you to accomplish the goal. It will still let you, do the job, but it would just not be as efficient as the paid version.
Okay. And then sort of on the other side, sort of mistakes, you said, okay, that's a really big lesson. That's nothing I'm going to do again. Or what would you what you bring with you from those years that you sort of, okay, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, that's just so many things that you learn around, every little thing that you start a business, you realize there are two ways really to learn. Either you read about it a lot and you try to learn, or you experience and you just get slapped in the face and you continue moving forward with the learnings. There are so many things. It's hard to pick one.
Well, maybe a few, 2 or 3, maybe.
I think hiring is always something that you learn the hard way. My assumption was that everybody is as driven and as entrepreneurial as me. So I did not put in my head, basically, I did not put myself in their shoes. I did not think about them as different mindset of trying to be the best or trying to be building the best company or really driven and really committed to a company. And that's something that I noticed, that hiring wrong from that perspective. It takes some time also to realize that, obviously.
That's interesting. I mean, this is obviously a tech rec pod, so that's a really good. What's your sort of? I mean, that's easy to say that, of course. Any founder will say, we want to hire people who are super engaged and love us and work super hard for almost no money.
Not money is not really ever the reason. I think everybody who works hard should actually be rewarded for it, right? I mean, that's a baseline for everything, and I think everybody should feel really engaged. I always tell my wife that if you're going to your job and you feel like I cannot wait to go back home, you're probably doing the wrong thing. If you work from home and the first thing you can think about, I cannot wait for the days to start so I can do the dishes during that daytime work, I think you're just not engaged enough. I think you're just not motivated enough by the goal of what you're building. For me specifically is I cannot wait to wake up to start the day, to start building again. I don't want to sleep because the sleeping time is non-productive development time, right? Or
that's quite often the case for founders. I mean,
I guess so.
I mean, that's why you are who you are. I mean,
to
some
I guess
extent.
So.
But I mean, when you, from a hiring perspective, what sort of you learned through the years that how do you find that? But also, perhaps, how can you sort of, engage people more? Perhaps. I mean, that's sort of an interesting question.
First of all, from identifying that through the process, you can see that in different ways and how people are motivated about their hobbies, for example, or, you ask them what you do in your free time. And when somebody just say, I hike, I love being with family, that's obvious. I think everybody does. Most people do. When they talk about the hobby and they're saying, I'm riding horses, for example, and I want to be the best and I'm taking these courses. And you just see that kind of spark in their eyes towards something that they're not experts in, they're not professionals, but they want to be the best in. I think this is kind of where you identify some kind of entrepreneurialism or drive or motivation that is unique and finding something you really care for. Not necessarily that it is about the job, but you see that they have that kind of spark. They understand what it is to have that spark towards something that they want to do. We normally test it over, task assessment, and we kind of see how you're thinking about the solution, how much innovation you can bring to the role, and how you're thinking about the situation. Can you fit it within the current setup? And we can tell by that whether somebody's an entrepreneur or has a kind of understanding, the big picture understanding, all these kind of things that make you successful in an early stage startup.
And what about the other question? Sort of how do you kind of get people on board or get people more engaged? What were your experiences from these early years? What works and what perhaps doesn't work?
There are a few things that we're doing here in terms, and it's actually building in our culture as well. So one of the things is giving you responsibility and ownership. When we onboard somebody right now, we're saying, this is yours. Like, you craft it, you build it, you own it completely. If it's not good, it's because you're the last line of defense. If you're not building it well enough, it's you. And it's really giving somebody, or most people here, that kind of level of, I need to do my best job. I want this to be the best because it's mine, it's my baby. Even though within the small startup that is growing. That's one thing. And the second thing is I always encourage people to understand the bigger picture. Just like when I approached projects back in the day, it was always about, can I explain the sales? Can I understand the marketing? Can I explain the customer service, the finance, how everything is connected? The more people can actually see in a company, the more clear it is for them where their piece of the puzzle is actually fitting and how it can actually build a proper solution.
And what can you do to sort of...
Well, transparency is one of the biggest things. Just making sure that we communicate everything. Always answer questions around how things are built, why things are built in a certain way, and giving actually the clarity that people need. Giving enough detail about everything that is done in the company. And of course, you cannot do it at big scale, but right now at our scale, we can always project that and actually be very clear with everybody. I mean, from engagement perspective, just saying, here is the big picture, here's what we're doing, here's where we are going, here's what has been done so far, here where we failed, here's where we succeeded. And just allowing all the pieces of the puzzle to connect for them and then tell them, now this is your project. Take it away and see what you come up with. So these are kind of for me, both the things that we test on through the hiring process and also the things that we measure performance, and actually engage our employees to do and be better.
So let's talk a little bit about more. So how did you move from this entrepreneurial Tel Aviv scene to where you are now?
Well, I got engaged with a Swedish girl. That's always the story.
Always the story, isn't it? But you met in Israel, or?
Yeah, we met first time in Israel. She came to Israel, yes. And actually, we met on Facebook back in the day when Facebook. I was 20 years old during my first startup period.
That's my wife as well, actually.
And it just continued discussion for a really long time, and eventually, Yulia came to Israel. I came to Sweden. We kind of been in a relationship, a long distance relationship, and then I realized we must live together. She moved to Israel for a while. She gave it a shot for 1.5 years. We moved around in Israel. We tried to find a nice home. And then she said, okay, I tried. Now it's your turn. When I moved to Sweden, it was very obvious that this is easier life in many ways.
Interesting. In which way?
You obviously have security and economy and religion and all these kind of things that are the day-to-day life. And in Sweden, what I found is that life doesn't get in the way in the same way. In a sense,
explain that. What do you mean?
In a sense of that there's not so much traffic, there's not so much yelling, there is not so much problems in a sense of economy or religion or politics or security. You don't have to think about things too much. You can just be you. People don't get in your way. I love the distance Swedish people give you. It's not in your face a lot. So it just gives you the space to do whatever you want. You can wake up whenever you want. You can work 16 hours a day and nobody will say a single thing. Everything seems so quiet and everything is on your terms, which for me in Sweden, it kind of just resonated so strongly from day one.
I'd say it was an obvious choice once you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting.
Absolutely.
And what do you miss about the
so many things, of course. There is family, obviously, that I miss, friends, and seeing the weather is obviously.
A day like this, though, is it?
Yeah, today is quite nice, but it's not 30 degrees.
It's not great. Gothenburg it rains a lot.
Yeah, especially I love summer.
Yeah.
So Sweden feels like 11 months of winter, and then you get 1 month of real summer.
Yeah. So that was like a family choice. But was that before you started coming? You said, okay, I'm gonna move to Sweden. I'm gonna make it work, or was it like?
No, it was completely spontaneous. We just decided. I played basketball at the time, kind of semi-pro. I thought, well, we can give it a shot here in Sweden. Made it to second league.
Oh, you actually played basketball here in
Sweden?
Yeah,
I did.
Which team did you play for?
Broe Basket, Bankerid. Yeah, these two.
Yeah.
Played for a few years. Obviously, you cannot make too big of a career in basketball here in Sweden. It's all right. It's good league still. The first league is really good. But I think sports is also one of the things, you're for yourself. If you're not great, you have to push yourself to be great, or you would be just out of the game. Yeah. So that we just gave these shots. I got injured quite early, and not really injured, but injury that I could not push 100%. Yeah. So I realized to focus more on what I'm great at. It's computers and development and all that. We lived in Jönköping for a while, and about 3 years ago we moved here to Gothenburg.
And how did Cerve happen?
Yeah, so that's over the time. I was doing projects, quite a lot of projects in different industries, and I kind of got to learn, working directly with founders, I got to learn how business is structured and how products should be structured from day one. I built quite a lot of projects across US, UK, and Australia, and it was mostly B2B. It was mostly enterprise products. So I got to see kind of how to approach projects from scratch, kind of considering the budgets, considering the resources that you have. How do we get them to an MVP really quick and start selling? And throughout, finding all these industries, I found the food industry, which to me was completely new. It was about 7 or 8 years ago. And it actually started from retail, because obviously the most pain us consumers feel is, how am I going to go to the store, and what I'm going to buy? And I thought I could just predict what I'm going to buy before, because I just don't want it on my mind. That's like Steve Jobs saying, I don't want to know what to wear in the morning. I just take a black shirt. Same thing. I just don't want to waste time thinking about what I'm going to buy at the store. So I just wanted the list to be pre-created. So I created kind of an algorithm based on previous purchases, and it worked to 70%. I started talking to retailers, and there was kind of an opportunity to build something in-house with one of the biggest retailers in Denmark, I believe that at the time. And I thought it's not really, I'm not looking to do another project. If there is probably a bigger thing here, considering the food industry is so fragmented and so many issues. So I continued actually exploring things. I went into the restaurant side and I realized that they're still ordering with pen and paper and phone calls and fax and SMS.
Would you just like ask people, or how do you do it? Tell me, just go.
Yeah. It was just very explorative, just research. Whoever you meet, you just like, can you tell me more about, how you work with the food industry and how do you order your food supplies? Did
you have several projects? I mean, did you have several things, or was this something that
Yeah, it was several things at the same time. I was actually running a consultancy at the time.
Okay, and you sort of decided, I want to look for something
I
bigger,
want to explore something, and if there is something there, great. If not, it's fine, I just get to learn about a new industry. But the more I dug into, understanding how people actually communicate into the food industry, it was just clearer and clearer that there is no real way to communicate. Most things, 95% of the industry is communicating still on phone and email and WhatsApp. And
so what do you mean by like you need, we're in a restaurant, we need more, I don't know, cheese.
Yeah.
you call your...
Yeah, absolutely. So these kind of things, even retailers or even wholesaler, when they're trying to order from their biggest suppliers, they're doing exactly the same things. Everybody's communicating over email, all these manual methods. And, I was always a big fan of Plaid, which is doing open banking. And
you can explain what that is, because that's a...
Well, Plaid, I wouldn't explain that as good as probably the founders, but it's the ability for you to, as a developer, to connect with banks and connect with individuals. So when they come into your app, they can actually access their bank account, transfer funds.
So it was a new thing that happened, and then lots of companies started sort of...
They basically created the API economy and communication that is a lot easier, making data more accessible within the bank data, more accessible for developers. And it was kind of always in my mind where this should probably apply to more industries. It's a really brilliant idea. And I think I was exposed to Plaid when it was 2013 or so. So quite early days for them. That was just when Robinhood was launched. I don't know if you know that, the trading app that was
I do know about it. Yeah,
really big.
Yeah, exactly. I know that, yeah.
So, just seeing all this transformation in banking and seeing how fragmented and how backwards the food industry was, from communication perspective, it made sense that there is some kind of communication method, and it needs to be a lot more digital than what it is today. It just doesn't reach the level of digitalization because there's so many companies that are still relying on manual. And at the same time, change is really hard in this industry. And things are starting connecting, talking to more organizations, who are the biggest wholesalers in the UK, retailers, marketplaces, sustainability products, everything started to connect that everybody has to integrate, everybody has to get better data. And slowly kind of Cerve was formed the idea of, okay, so it's not really about one app that allows you to communicate like e-commerce way to submit orders. It's not about analytics platform. It's not about marketplaces. There is really a fundamental issue with the way companies are integrated and communicate. And that's kind of triggered what Cerve became actually in 2022.
How was the process? When did you sort of start thinking about it?
So I started or launched Cerve in July 2019.
Yeah. And when you say launch, it was just you, or is it?
Just me, yeah. With a few consultants, basically engineers that helped us get the project off the ground. And it was still my consultancy, right?
Yeah. But you were financing it,
I was financing it completely, yeah. Just trying to see where it can go. Yeah. And it very much started as a e-commerce for suppliers, wholesalers, to enable them to establish a store like Shopify, like allowing the customers to order.
So explain that. So that was the beginning. It was somebody wants to sell something, and
rather than phone calls, they just invite their customer. Yeah. Their customers will be able to see all their products, and just
you can order 2 more today, or like
exactly. Phone calls are just taking so long time, and emails and all of that kind of stuff. It just creates so much administration. If everything was just written up, it just makes it much easier. And we started that in Sweden and Norway. COVID hit, and basically wholesale is kind of shut down.
Yeah.
And luckily, I didn't leave my job, so still things are running around in the background, and it allowed me to take a step back and just say, you know what, I don't want to rely on another pandemic to see what happens then. Obviously, it was a hard time for all startups because there was no funding. There was really nothing that could happen. Even bootstrap companies, like us, there was no wholesalers to sell to.
Yeah.
They were bankrupt, or restaurants just did not function anymore. So there was just nothing to build.
Yeah. And we had a tough time then as well. I mean, we like almost went bust in like 2 weeks.
Right.
We didn't, but it felt like it.
Recruitment,
recruitment, like everything stopped. I mean, it was like
completely. There is no money. Everybody
like. I mean, we had like in 2 weeks we lost 75. The prognosis, like when it happens in March, it was like end of March. Our revenue forecast for June went down by 75%.
Wow.
It's like, even if you fire everybody tomorrow, we're going to go bust.
That's crazy.
But then it like turned around.
It kind of turned around after 6 months, I guess.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah.
COVID was still there. And
like September was like suddenly things started looking up for us. Like
that's completely.
Unbelievably.
That was so weird. I went to Stockholm that weekend, I remember, and Stockholm was packed. And I was like, COVID is not over. No, what's going on?
Strange.
And then just a week after,
like everybody was suddenly on Teams, and it was like Teams and Google, and it was like suddenly it was funny how that quick that went.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then like we can talk about that later, but it's funny how things always happen. The downturns happen at the same time, then it's
you have to live with that.
It's just how things are.
But surviving through downtime, I think that's really was in my mind. How can I create something that does not depend on that? And that's a really tough problem to solve. But I still, kind of realizing communication through the industry, or realizing that integrations are not there to the same degree. People are obviously relying on very old ways of communication. That's something that must change in the industry. That's really the reason innovation is not really happening at the same scale. Like why open banking is doing so many apps. Every week you see a new app for
it's really happening. Yeah.
But supply chain, was there not enough money, not enough people? There is enough of everything. It just, data is not accessible for people. And therefore, being able to build something requires a lot more heavy lifting. And that's when we realized Cerve should actually be the one powering and allowing these innovators and developers to build more solutions for the industry, to automate, to innovate, new solutions that are not built yet, to allow more individuals to actually build solutions that help wholesalers, manufacturers, restaurants, literally anybody in this food supply chain that needs advancements from automation perspective or growth perspective.
So explain that. How are you going to do that, or how are you doing it at the moment?
Yeah, so on a surface, it's a very simple process. We're integrating with different suppliers across the food supply chain. Everything. Can
you give an example? What
manufacturers, for example, like Coca-Cola and Nestle.
Okay, so Coca-Cola make Coca-Cola and they want to sell it everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, they already have their customers. Yeah. We're not going to change that.
No.
But the data that they're communicating is very fragmented, emails and Excels and PDFs and all that kind of stuff. So we're giving them the platform to allow them to communicate that more efficiently. And that's an API, right? And an API, application programming interface, that's what it stands for. It doesn't really mean anything, I guess, for anybody. But it's just the way developers are talking between systems. It just makes it much easier to develop using an API, especially when the data that you're consuming through the API is easy to consume and reliable. So we're basically integrating all those suppliers into our platform and then creating API keys to anybody who wants to build on top of our platform. And we're giving much richer data, more reliable data, more real time, all these kind of things that make it much more valuable for a developer. So they don't have to work on the backend side of things. They don't have to harvest data as much.
And when you say developer, who's the developer there? Like who is sort of is it somebody called Coder, or is it who's sort of?
I'm avoiding describing that purposefully. The reason is because developers can actually live everywhere. Right? When they're driving the innovation economy. Developers can actually be a single individual developer, just want to build an app for the food industry. It could be somebody within Coca-Cola. It could be somebody within ICA that wants to build better procurement solutions or price comparison or whatever it is that they look that will optimize and reduce their cost or increase their revenue. And so it's really any developer, anybody who's technical.
And what
enough
about
to
some
consume
like
API.
the retailers? Why are they sort of, well, there's what are they called? The ones who are selling the stuff.
Yeah.
What's the word? What's the sort of industry word?
For suppliers.
The suppliers.
Yeah.
Why are they sharing data, right? Why are they sort of?
So that comes from procurement perspective. If you are a retailer, you're working with about 1,000 suppliers, you will submit orders to them. You will have to track the order, whether it's going to arrive in time, because you have customers coming to the store. You need to make sure that you have enough stock. You need to make sure that the prices are correct, the invoices are coming through, shipments, the terms, the discounts, the rebates. There's just so much information that is transmitted. The problem is that Coca-Cola, for example, will give you all of that in different Excel sheets, and you'll have to make sense of it. So a retailer would take all the data directly from an API, and then they can start building automations on top of it rather than people actually manually reading through all this information through Excel. And that's when you talk about 1,000 suppliers or more, that's a lot of work.
Okay.
These are
How far have you come? Sort of where are you?
Yeah, we have about 12 applications right now built using the Cerve API.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, there is an Amazon application. So basically, if you're a supplier that wants to integrate with Amazon, you just communicate that developer and they can connect you directly through the Cerve infrastructure. It could be order automation, AI order automation. So for example, there is this application that was built on top of Cerve that is basically connects to, if you're a supplier, it connects to your email inbox. It's downloading all the emails that are purchase orders, identifying all the items on each purchase order and pushing it directly into your system without the manual need for somebody being involved. And this is a very practical, easy thing to build once you have an infrastructure that's giving you the right data, all the connections up front, so you don't have to waste time on the integrations and the data being accurate. Right? You just have to build that front-end side of things. And then you can start selling to suppliers of any kind.
Amazing. And it's more about from the company perspective. So you started this, you realized this, and then what's been the process? Because I know you financed this. So what's sort of which phase are you in sort of?
We found our product market fit about 2 years ago.
And when you say you found, how did that process? How did that happen, sir?
It was very unique for us because while in most industries you need to find product market fit and then go to market fit, for us it had to happen at the same time.
Can you explain that?
Your distribution of how you're growing interest in Cerve, because it's a communication tool, has to happen simultaneously while people actually want to use it for building solutions. So the product market fit is taking our API and starting building on it. Simultaneously, we need to make sure that we have enough data for these people to build on. We couldn't just give you anything.
Quite similar to social networks in that sense. You have to have sort of enough traction, otherwise it's not worth doing.
So that's my point.
Nobody's there.
Exactly.
Where should I play?
That's my point. So we had to build go-to-market fit together with product market fit simultaneously on the same second. And that took a lot of thinking, a lot of obsession around the small details of the industry and how can actually we generalize solutions and make sure that everybody can build on top of our API. I won't dive into the go-to-market, and how we're doing it. But from a product market fit, we really nailed it. I mean,
and was there any like a moment that you like a moment where you realized this is how I was going to do it, or is there a sort of was there like a more a process?
I think theoretically, yes, there was a moment. That was November, I remember. It was very dark outside, and me being obsessive and not leaving work for a second. Just sitting down. My wife and I watched the Spotify show on Netflix. I don't know if you saw that. It's pretty good. And it just triggered some thoughts in my head after really a lot of thoughts that's been there already. And all of a sudden I just pinned to my wife and I said, I got it. That's it. And she thought I went nuts at the moment. I went back to the UK and just laid out to the team, how we're going to go after the market and what we're going to do and how it's going to scale. And nobody really understood anything that I thought about.
That's classic, actually.
It's really like, I was like, I'm super clear, guys. I don't know how to make it more clear.
Idiots! That's quite interesting because that happens to me quite a lot. I have this. I think this is the solution, and I like nobody is sort of jumping. And I'm like really frustrating because like
yeah, what am I missing?
What I'm missing? Why can't you see it?
I'm sure I have a problem here, but I just don't know what I'm not delivering well. But yeah, it took us some time to create alignment and actually explain to the team how it's going to scale. And we started dropping that, and kind of showing how it's going to scale. And the moment it started working, we got, huge suppliers across the industry just signing it up with us, in less than a month. And things actually started triggering faster and faster and faster. And, the team was like, now we understand a little better what you're talking about, because before it was just theoretical. It was not really practical. We couldn't see the scale. After we started signing all the customers and all the suppliers, it became a lot clearer. And then at that point, the API kind of improved and the amount.
And at that point, you were still financing yourself, sort of.
No, that was actually after we been financed by Orkla Ventures in 2022. So that was April 2022 when we closed the first round.
So you had first financing in 2021? 2022. Okay, and then what happened from there?
From there, we actually continued kind of exploration, honestly. So we didn't really know. We knew that it's an API business. We didn't know how to design the API.
And we say you, I mean, by this time you're a little bit bigger team? Or do you
No, we were very small. We were still 5 people or so, 4 people. We started thinking, okay, we need salespeople. We need to start scaling that and trying to see how things will scale for us. And it was simultaneously building, kind of understanding where to get the product market fit, which we did not have in April 2022 to the same degree. We had some kind of product market fit, by the way, where, in the end of 2022, things became completely clear for us. How? And in 2023, we actually executed on that and shown that the product market fit was completely there. So this is kind of was the timeline. Through 2022, we hired different people and trying to understand how to message and how to get things to the market in the right way. Did not work to the same degree because we had to find the product market fit while the go-to-market fit. So that was really the challenge, 6 months of obsession and trying to really get the right formula. And when you get it eventually in end of 2022.
And was there a particular customer case or something that you said, okay, this is when it worked? Or
yeah, we had a buying group in the UK.
So what do they do?
They used to be Confex, called Confex. Now they're the wholesale group. And they're basically connecting between wholesalers to manufacturers. And they're basically kind of the middleman negotiating deals and promotions on behalf of the wholesalers to get better prices from the manufacturers. But they have a contribution or obligation for both sides. They need the suppliers to sell enough so they can give them good deals. And they need the members to buy enough so suppliers will be happy with it. So they approached us, and it was a very bespoke solution, that we built back then just for them, because kind of from an API perspective. We built that API that allows them to communicate, to build their platform. And they built so many features and platforms internally. And we just supported them throughout and just see how that progressed. And it turned out to be a wonderful relationship, and to kind of help us form our understanding of the industry and form how communication should really happen throughout the industry. And at that time, you're getting more clarity from the industry. You learn a lot from different aspects, both from supplier perspective, from wholesale, from buying groups, marketplaces, and you get more clients that are coming to you and just trying to understand your proposition. We got to a point where we had about 300 suppliers, organically, completely, everything is inbound. And we needed to fundraise to go into the next phase of Cerve, basically scaling that product market fit.
And when was this? When was this sort of?
And that was March last year when we started raising fundraising.
Quite a tough time to start raising. I mean, it hasn't been the best.
Everybody
wasn't 2022.
Everybody told me it's going to be really hard for you. It's going to take you a long time. Yeah. Obviously, fundraising in itself takes a long time. It's always long, yeah. But and obviously, because it's such a complex concept with Cerve.
Couldn't even explain to your team.
At least initially. It took time to really get to the right people.
Yeah.
And the right people are people who actually did open banking before, or
of course, that's the obvious choice. Yeah.
And so it kind of was the way to filter VCs as well. VCs that could actually not get it in the first discussion or could not see the excitement, they probably were not the good fit for us. I think within 5 months we got the first offer.
Yeah. And what was sort of? I mean, I realize that's a massive question, but sort of looking back, what was sort of? What would you sort of share or say? This is a good thing we did, or this is something? I mean, in that process.
I think telling a story is always the most important thing. Showing excitement. So, obviously when you're fundraising, it's not always like it's a personal connection, obviously, as in everything else. And you have to make sure that you're creating that comfortable environment to share and to tell your story. And it's not naturally happening with all VCs, obviously. Not all VCs are right for you. And you get to learn it the hard way. Normally the hard way. I hope people will learn it the easy way. Unlike me.
They say no, but they say no late.
No, if they say yes, but they're the wrong investor, that's even worse.
Yeah, that's even worse.
I think just feel comfortable and confident in what you're building and just sell the vision, sell exactly what it's going to be. Nobody is interested in a small business in VC. It's not really what people are going for. And for us, it was very much the same.
But was it obvious that you needed investment? I mean, you could have just gone on organically, or I mean, that must have been to a certain extent, it's a life choice you make.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to build small things. I built enough small things.
Yeah, okay.
And I could do well with building small things, but it's not really interesting for me. I want to transform this huge industry that nobody.
And you realize to do that, we need capital.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're thinking about a complete new concept for an industry that's been existing since the beginning of humankind, right? It's $10 trillion industry. It's not something that you can transform very easily. So of course I needed all the backing, the relationships, the networks, the best talent possible.
So now you're in a scale-up phase.
We are in a scale-up phase completely.
So can you tell me about that? And also let's dive into the recruitment part as well, because that's also how you're thinking there with you're building a team now.
Yeah, from a scale-up phase, I mean, we know exactly what needs to be built. We know exactly how to apply everything. We have the strategic blueprints and roadmaps, and we already started building.
Yeah, so you have a pretty clear vision of what you want to do.
Completely. We already know what's working and what's not going to work, and we have so much clarity. So it's just an execution level at the moment. And we're both scaling up the team from what we used to be 8. We're going to go to 15 by the end of this year. And that's across mostly development and engineering, product and engineering. And we have some sales and account management. And then, the product is going to get to a different stage completely from where it is today. We build obviously an MVP. You start with the lean version of it. We got, I think, beyond MVP long time ago. But now we know exactly what can be removed, what can actually be adjusted and become more efficient, more performant. And
I know you talked about UK, but now we're in Gothenburg. So what's your thinking there? Where are you going to build a team?
So we have 2 teams. We actually have the engineering, product and engineering team, which is going to be here in Gothenburg, or is already in Gothenburg. And we have the commercial team, which is UK. The reason it's UK and commercial is because all our audience and all the suppliers and the entire market we're serving is in the UK today. So
because it's just one of the biggest retail markets, and that's where you want to be. Yeah.
It's one of the biggest markets. It's also English speaking. It's easier to scale to different countries from the UK, and it's a great strategic location from a bridge to the entire world. They're working with France, they're working with Germany, they're working with so many other countries.
And they're also quite far ahead as far as e-commerce and retail and all those things as well.
That's correct. They completely understand the difference between integration and the other word integration, which is, proper modern API level versus EDI or very legacy ways of integrations.
So why have you chosen to have the product team in Sweden?
Yes.
I realize you're here, but
Yeah, obviously. Well, I mean, there is a reason beyond that, because we could always build an office in London right? I'm in London quite often anyway, so it's not really an obstacle. The reason is, I think there is so much talent here in Sweden in general, and people that are really talented in engineering, the culture and kind of the free space that I talked about as part of why I love Sweden so much. I think that's given to everybody. There is a good culture for people who actually want to build and kind of make an impact. There is a big understanding of sustainability and that side of thing and making an impact in supply chain. And Gothenburg specifically, it's obvious to go to Stockholm, right? Because it's the biggest city, there are more people there. There is also the most competition there. Cities like Gothenburg, the competition that we are having right now is Volvo and, the automobile kind of industry, which is very different to the software industry. There's still software in these companies, but they're not to the same degree as a SaaS infrastructure company like us. So it makes us stand out a bit more. It makes competition a bit easier. Not to say that it's not there. Obviously, Volvo is...
Yeah, I mean, there are other companies as well. Companies, we're here at Lindholmen now, which is, it's definitely... But I think you're right that there is a big... I mean, the reason we came to Gothenburg was, of course, that we felt that it was growing. And suddenly there was lots of, we had lots of customers who wanted to recruit tech in Gothenburg.
And it's the second biggest city in Sweden. So, I mean, where is a better place to be?
Yeah, I think it's, maybe, of course, Gothenburg is feeling the downturn a little bit, but that's obviously a good thing for you guys. It's a little bit of downturn with the car industry, but I mean, and also, of course, a little bit in the startup scene, that there was like a massive, lots of financing going into Gothenburg, software companies, I'm sure you know the obvious ones, but we had the feeling that it's sort of starting to pick up again.
Yeah, that and Malmö. I mean, you can see that there is a huge difference. There are a lot more engineers that are moving. I think maybe that's also an impact of the pandemic, that people who lived in Stockholm for work realized that they can work from home.
Definitely.
Went back to their cities, their hometowns.
And salaries were definitely lower in Gothenburg. They still are a little bit. Yeah. But at one point they were almost equal, and I think they're a little bit behind because it's sort of it's just Volvo is good at pressing down the Volvo. This is true. I didn't know that. But this definitely happens. They sort of keep down the salaries a little bit, and then
I mean, obviously they control the area.
Yeah, they control the whole. It's like
I think in this building they have about 3 floors at least.
And it's like, and all the consulting companies, like you have to have. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, now it's like the auto space, the automobile, and it's not. It's not only Volvo. It's the whole sort of. Lots of Chinese companies. I mean, it's like, but if you don't have consultants there, you're basically, and then that sort of sets the price basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a big, but that then opens up for people who want to work outside of that space.
Anybody who's really interested in building infrastructure solutions or SaaS or API based companies, it's just so different.
Yeah. So I think it's a really good story, Dan. But let's sort of start finishing off maybe, and if you have a sort of last chance to say. Or it's not a last chance. You can say a lot about this if you want, but sort of say something about what it's going to be like working at Cerve the coming years. I mean, what's going to be the sort of.
I think first of all, I would say that it's the most exciting time to join Cerve. Right? I mean, we found so many things. We know exactly where we're going, how we're going to do it, and it's really an area and an era of AI where so many companies are focusing on AI, where we're focusing on data and connectivity. And it's very different. Our competition will not be as much as the AI. The pressure will not be as much. Although we are actually going to transform a $10 trillion industry, which is, the task is huge. The impact is enormous. So there's just so much responsibility and so much fun in actually defining the industry from scratch. Obviously, with the help of our customers, and we will not do whatever we want. But there is so much ownership, and anybody who has some spark of entrepreneurialism and wants to actually define a new industry from scratch and actually make impact on food waste and sustainability and food security, there is no better place to be, really.
I agree with that. I think also that talking to you, if you look at also if you compare yourself to other companies, I mean, you're scaling, but you're not sort of becoming 100th.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing, because that makes it, you can really have an impact and you can make a big difference. And you realize that if we do this correctly, we can really scale it. So there's a lot of potential.
I'm a huge believer of small teams,
I agree
to be
with
honest.
That as well.
I think communication is one of the hardest things in any company. Alignment. I think if you have less people, it's much easier to align. And I think
if you can keep it sort of smallish, there's a massive advantage.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, of course, there are examples where you can't, but I mean, if you can,
it's just making you move much quicker. You make more mistakes because you're missing things. Obviously, less minds missing more things. You do your best job, and you just push enough code and enough features, and you see the impact that it's creating. You can always scale it back. You can be more agile. When you're big teams and you're impacting, too many people, you just cannot be as fragile, I guess, or flexible in a way of just pushing things. So that's allowing us to actually move quicker, be a lot more dynamic. Things are changing very often. It's very, very fun environment to work in.
Obvious question, but can you sort of explain from your perspective, why is data so important? I mean, that's a silly one, but Why is it happening so? Why is there so much focus on this now, and why is this?
So data, I think, since the beginning of internet, data was the most important thing for any company. I mean, starting from Google all the way to open AI today. Data is just a currency to a degree, but it's also a very important thing to build things properly. Like even if you're building with AI and you're very efficient now as a developer, you don't have to code really. The problem is that the type of data that you're getting into your platform, into your solution, is really going to determine whether the solution is usable or not. But if you get bad data in, if the insights are bad and unreliable, then the value of your product is zero. If you do get really good insights and all the data is reliable and it's real time, and it's accessible the entire time, and you can get more data to calculate and to analyze, your insights will increase, the value for the customers will increase, and you just be a more successful company and more innovative company. So that's really the basics of it. Data is the foundation to building proper solutions. Whether you're using AI or using Python or Go or whatever it is.
And sort of moving that on to sort of the AI question, i.e., and that of course means that you can use then AI on this data in some way or another, but it also perhaps says something about what kind of skills you want going forward, and what's your thinking about, when you think about, when you at the moment you're thinking it now, what kind of people do we need and what skills do they need to grow the company? What do you what does this mean for a development department or an engineering partner?
There is, first of all, the culture side of things. That's the first thing that we actually look at. And, I can talk to you about entrepreneurialism and collaboration and all these kind of things. I think it boils down to driven, intelligent, and capable people. Really, that means quite a lot of it. It's a huge scope.
Who wouldn't want to? I mean, I don't want to hire people who are driven and capable and intelligent.
I think there are some companies that just want people to do the job they're given.
That's true.
And they should not be doing outside of the job. I think this is very different for us. We want people to actually be able to see a bigger picture outside of their responsibility, just be able to actually understand, why am I doing a certain thing? I'm involved in actually setting the future for this company and the product, and I have ownership, and I really feel like it's a baby for me. That's one thing that we're looking for, and that's autonomous kind of skills or collaboration skills. These are really important for us and something that we're looking through. From skills perspective or talent, or experience, if we're talking about engineers, we're looking for quite experienced engineers. We're looking for people who have done it before.
And what should they have done before, and what sort of?
Mostly if they worked with API products previously. I know most engineers did. But to a degree, designing API products, that would be a really ideal background. If they understand the concept of building API for an industry that doesn't really rely on API yet, and kind of that's transformational vision. From languages perspective, we're looking for Go and Python.
Is that important? I mean, that's always something which comes up, is it?
Yeah, I mean, no, not as important as the culture side of things. Of course, if you can figure things out and you're very good at your craft, if you know other languages, we can make it work. Go is, as I understood at least, is one of the easiest languages to learn, so it shouldn't be that of a problem. But ideally, we're looking to move really quick together. We won't have time to delay and just lay back and say, okay, take 1 month to learn something. It's just not the kind of culture that we're in. We want to move extremely quick. And I think that's also what makes it exciting.
And looking forward, I mean, do you have any sort of idea how sort of engineering departments will change over the coming years, in the sense that AI is changing everything, and have you sort of thought about that, or are you saying let's solve this problem first, and what?
No, I think it's already kind of applied. I mean, to a large degree, you can see AI impacting jobs to a degree of engineering. I don't think the change will be that drastic, as engineers will not exist anymore, or I think that's an exaggeration. I think the admin job of any job is going to go away.
What do you mean by that?
To a large degree. If your job is basically to clean code, which is a very admin heavy, you could use AI to do that. So an engineer can be a lot more efficient writing things that are actually meaningful and very creative and innovative on other crafting solutions, while AI can actually take care of if they made a mistake by code or, writing something, misspelling or things like that, that could be actually cleaned up. They will be just a lot more efficient in the way they're writing code. I think these are the really big things that we will see in the next few years.
So what does that mean for the need, for the sort of need for engineers? Will it grow? Will it be less? Or what do we think?
I think more people can be engineers with AI.
That's true. That's a good point, actually.
Yeah. So I think there will be more engineers. There will be more solutions. Hopefully, I think more innovation in general. It's always welcome to. I don't think engineers are going away.
No, I guess I agree with that.
They're really important.
And it's sort of almost like I actually quite I think the engineering field in that sense, people who work with, in general are more open to they need to know what's new.
Absolutely.
It's like,
it's a new tool.
It's a new tool, exactly. And it's always been like that. 10 years ago, if you didn't know how to do I don't know, cloud, or you got asked at an interview, like, I don't know what that is, then you wouldn't get the job. And it's the same now. So in that sense, I think that this part of society is going to be more acceptable to like just a new thing. So of course there'll be engineers who aren't able to adapt, but that was true for frameworks and so.
Right. If you're not adapting and if you're not, you have to.
Yeah, you have to.
AI is here to stay, and it will be growing, and it will be doing maybe even bigger tasks than what it's doing today, like smarter. I think consistency is one of the issues that AI is not very good at. But eventually, it will get to a point where it's consistent enough, and it can actually compute more information than a human. It already does. So that can actually use it for you, just leverage it.
I think we're done, actually.
Nice.
Have we forgotten anything?
No, I don't think so.
Is there anything you'd like to add, or like I always ask at the end, is there anything what do you sort of read or follow or listen to stay ahead?
I'm not much of a reader, to be honest. I do a lot. I like to get my hands dirty and just.
But do you any any channels, like this is what you used to keep in touch with, like?
Yeah, I listen to 20 VC. If you
20 VC.
Yeah, that's a podcast. It brings quite interesting people around, and just getting insights from different perspectives of how to grow companies and all that kind of stuff. That's really it. I read.
That's a really good. That's a good tip. Do you have any tips of anybody we should get on the pod? Do you think?
Does it have to be Swedish or?
No. Give me anybody.
I think our lead investors is really an interesting person, or the one who represents our lead investor.
Okay, who's this?
Ferdinand Reynolds.
Okay.
And our advisor, we have great advisors, to be honest. So just the first one that comes to mind, Paul Williamson, who's been with us for about 2 years now.
Great.
Who was the former chief revenue officer of Plaid. Took them from $3 million to $300 million.
That's a good.
He's extremely experienced, been through a lot, and it just shows in every word he says, and the value that he creates for us as well.
Great.
Yeah.
So how did this feel?
Yeah, great.
It's good. I think you were great.
Yeah, thank you.
Really good. You should do this more. That's good.